I'm Dan Kinkel with Greenhaven Farm, and today I'm going to show you how to build our modified meat bird chicken tractor. This design was inspired by the Joel Salatin chicken tractor design. His is a 12 by 12 chicken tractor designed for 75 birds. Ours is just a 4 by 10 and designed for about 20 birds. Other small chicken tractors are similar to ours, but ours is probably built lighter than anybody else's. It's lighter, which means it's less materials, less expensive to build. It's gonna be faster to build because it's less materials. And I like it that it's lighter. That was a big concern of ours. We have boys and my wife that helps us move these things, and I wanted to make it as easy as possible for anybody to move it. So that's our big advantage. Before we get started on the build, let me just show you some of the key things that makes this different. Number one is the vertical supports down the long side. Most of the other tractors have at least 2, if not 3. We only have 1. We've been using this design for about 3 years now, and the one vertical support has been absolutely sufficient. We have no cross bracing going on. That's absolutely not necessary to do cross bracing. Your hardware wire, or whatever wire that you're using, when that's stapled on, that does the same thing as the cross bracing. And this thing is rock solid. It does not rack whatsoever. So not using the cross bracing, that's just adding extra weight, extra expense, extra time putting it in. Just absolutely not necessary. So again, the big difference is in our design is everything is made with 1x4s, and actually ours are only a 1x3. We have a sawmill, so all this lumber came from a sawmill. We didn't buy any of the lumber, but if you're just going to the local box store and buying 1x4s, that's all you need to do. Most people will buy pressure treated lumber. We choose not to use pressure treated just because we're concerned with the chemicals that are in that pressure treated lumber around our meat birds that we'll be eating later. So we just use natural wood. So far we've had some that are 3 years old and they've been holding up pretty well. We didn't paint them, stain them, didn't do anything to them. It's just raw wood out there. We try to cover them in the off season to protect them a little bit. The big differences in our tractor is that we included this door in the front. So this door allows us to let the birds free range in the paddock. We run the Premier One electric fencing around these, and so that helps us to let the birds out during the day a little bit when we can. So the left side, we have a larger platform, 45-degree angle, which actually has stiffened up the tractor a lot, but it also doubles as our watering system. So we have the watering system inside the tractor, and we put the bucket on here, which that holds the bucket of water. It's gravity fed into the waterer, and that's all we got to do. I really like our gravity fed water system. We built this. It probably cost us, $5 to $10 in materials to assemble this, maybe even 15. The bell waterer, which I really like too, we use those. And if I could, I would just buy more of those, but they're between $60 and $85 is what we find those for. We have a couple of them. They work great, but cost-wise, we need to have 6 of these in our, 1 in each of our tractors that we built. This plastic corrugated sheet cost about $17 at Lowe's. It used to only be $8. It's gone up quite a bit. But the same panels in metal is like $19 a sheet, and they weigh a lot more. So we really like the light weight of these plastic sheets. Plus, it also keeps the coop cooler in the summer heat. I haven't finished this tractor yet. I need to go out and get some more of the panels. I will cover the one end panel, and I will cover one size also 8 feet down. That gives us protection from the 2 of the sides. We get a lot of wind here, so that protects the birds from wind. It also helps during a heavy rainstorm. Just helps the birds to stay a little bit drier. I wanted to show you a couple of our feeding options. I really like this tray the most, and this is what we're using now for the pasture chickens. It works great. This hanging feeder, we like it in our bigger chicken coops, really, that we're using for our layer hens. We can hang this and adjust the height as the chickens get bigger or smaller. So we typically move these tractors at least 2 times a day, if not 3 times. Our rotation is first thing in the morning, we come out and we move the chickens onto fresh grass, give them a chance to do a little bit of foraging out there. And then late morning, we're bringing this feeder, give them feed, and potentially, depending on how the grass looks where they are at the time, I may even move them real quick, feed them, let them stay there throughout the afternoon, and then late in the afternoon, we'll move the tractor again onto fresh grass. That way they're sleeping on fresh grass. So they're not over foraging and having a negative impact on the pasture. We're trying to spread that manure pretty evenly across each paddock, because one of our goals is also to just fertilize the pasture and give us more biodiversity. We have sheep, cows, and chickens running across the pasture, and I think that's really helping the growth. We also just used a rope in the front for dragging it. And when you attach these, I actually attach them instead of just going through the front. I go through the front and the side, so the rope goes all the way through this corner. And then when you pull on it, you're sharing the load a little bit better. So let's get started. Let me show you how we get this thing built. All right, most of the boards are cut. I'm gonna clean this mess up and start laying it out. I may have to rip some more boards, but I think I'm close to having everything I need to put together the chicken tractor. Let's see what we got. So we're putting this together. We have 18-inch boards. Since the sides are 2 feet tall, this is our 18 inches. Because I have 1x3s, if you buy a box store 1x4s, it'll be 3.5 inches. So this would be 17 inches instead. So these are 24 inches, just laminates on. This side is actually the inside of the tractor, and the wire will be on the outside. It probably doesn't really matter that much if you staple it well, but I just figured if there was predator pressure trying to get in and the wire is stapled from the outside, they're pushing against the boards. Less chance of them knocking the wire loose and getting in. So we're doing it that way. Highly recommend these exterior grade Simpson screws. I've been using these for a while. I tried all the screws in the market. Well, all the screws that I found, and it was a lot. Most of like the deck screws, their screw pattern, or the coarse thread, fine thread. A lot of deck screws, the way the threads work, they just don't have a lot of gripping power. They strip out real easy. And I've had problems building things with deck screws that just falls apart after a year or two, especially being outside in the weather. So highly recommend these screws. They are 1 5/8. I haven't been able to find an 1 1/4. So since I'm using 3/4 inch thick boards, if I put these screws straight in, the tips will stick out the back a little bit. So I just put them on a slight angle and it prevents the screw from sticking out the other side. All right, we got the 2 end panels and the 2 sides assembled. So I assembled these by having the spacer board that holds this at the 24-inch height that I want, and then the board across the back. This double thickness also helps to screw these the ends to the sides and makes it stronger. Since this is half the size of the Joel Salatin model, you definitely don't need the cross members. I actually built the full-size tractor, which I have on the pasture right now, and I did not use the cross bracing. So a few of our tips have poked through the other side, so I'm just gonna grind those off real quick. I have an angle grinder with the sanding disc pad, works the best, but you can do it whatever works best for you. So before you staple, make sure you line it up first. I actually hold the metal wire off the edge of the wood a little bit so it doesn't stick past. It definitely helps someone get cut. I also didn't staple it all the way at the end. That way I can roll the wire back and still cut it off at the length without nicking the wood. So when I staple, I try to go across at a 45-degree angle and get 2 pieces of wire. I found it holds a little better. So I got one of the end panels done. So the other end panel, we're going to build a door to go into that one. So I'm going to cut the parts for the door and build that and put wire on it. So when we cut out the door, I'm going to cut it 1/2 inch short at the top and the bottom, so it gives us space to allow for opening and closing and allow for expansion of the door. So we're assembling the door the same way we assembled the sides, the same technique, and it's the same way we did the ends. Everything's kind of the same. No diagonal cross members are necessary. I'm going to show you the kind of the gap that we have going on at the top and the bottom. That should be plenty for expansion. So when I assemble this, I do like to assemble it in the end panel. Just makes it easy to make sure it's square and everything fits right. So this goes here. And again, as I said earlier, I'm using 1 5/8 screws, which if you can find 1 1/2 screws, that'd be great. Maybe even 1 1/4 would probably be sufficient, and you don't have to worry about going on an angle. So I have to go in on an angle to try to keep my tip of my screws from poking out the back, which sometimes it sticks to, and I got to sand it off to make it flush. All right, looks good. Screw this together. I'm just putting one screw at each corner first, just to make sure everything's lining up here. That way I can still tweak it a little bit if I need to. And I don't get too close to the end. That's probably borderline close. It can split off the board a little bit easier, so try to hold it back. So I want to keep my reveal the same. Make sure I'm screwing this thing together so it lines up nice with the door. That looks good all the way around. Could have used a framing square, but to me it's a little safer doing it that way. Especially if I messed up and didn't get this end perfectly square. I know that my door looks like a square inside the hole, so. Not that I would ever mess up. I'm just saying, just in case, you know. And I'm doing the double boards. It does add strength, but it actually gives me a nice flat surface to attach the wire. Okay, there's our door. So I'm gonna flip this over and put the wire on this side. And look, I got a couple screws sticking out. So let me switch this to the other one. Okay, to fasten the sides together, I'm using headlock. It's actually by Fasten Master. I know Lowe's carries them, Home Depot carries some. This box is 4.5 inch. I've had good luck with these, holding these together. I've used regular, just deck screws and stuff in the past, but like these, I've used these in the past, 3-inch long, and I've had problems with those things failing. As soon as the wood starts to rot a little bit, it's so skinny, you lose a lot of holding power. So these seem to hold up a lot longer. Let's see if we split this thing wide open. Looks good, didn't split at the sides. That's gonna be solid. I'll do that all the way around, and be good to go. So we've got the sides assembled, all the wires on. I'm gonna build the top. It'll be the same width right to left, but front to back. I'm gonna add about 1 inch to it. That way we get a little lip in the front. It makes it easy to pick it up. And then we'll also put in an arm so we can prop up the lid on it. So the whole top opens up. It makes it nice when you try to catch the chickens. They can't go and hide underneath something. That's the one challenge we had with the Joel Salatin tractor before too, is we had to climb under there and try to catch those chickens to get them out. This is makes it a little bit easier. So the lid is built the same way that the sides are built. All right, we are using chicken wire for the top of this thing instead of hardware wire. It's less expensive, and we don't need the extra protection of the hardware wire on the top. But we are laminating the wire between our spacer board and then the other board that goes on top to hold all that together. So we're gonna put the wire down first, go from there. So we staple down the wire down the one long side, and before we staple it down to the end, we have to make sure it's square. So staple it like on this rung right there. Yeah, that way. Yeah, so I put marks on the table because the wire is pulling the board out of square. So before we attach it at the top, I'm just putting lines on this table so we can make sure we nail it together.
The line's picking up.
We pull everything back to square again. Make sure that we don't nail staple the wire on out of square. Okay.
Should I go here?
Yeah. Do a couple. Down the outside edge like you did before. I screw this top board on that holds all these spacers in, I'm screwing the spacer to this board first. And then we'll double check the squareness and pull it to the long rails. I'm gonna start 2 screws. Not getting too close to the end so I don't split the board out. Ah, it's good for the stapler. Okay, you get to put the screws in for me. Okay, don't overdrive it. Nice and easy. Let's put one more in up here.
What are you doing?
Had the screw angled the wrong way and I pushed the boards apart.
Ah.
I angle it this way, it pulls them tighter. So that first one was important to pull it tight to itself. Maybe we'll screw the rest of these down and then we'll put the roof on. So I'm putting the panels on the roof. I'm actually covering most of the roof and leaving a little bit end open. I could actually probably cut these and expose more of the end, but I'm gonna keep it bigger like this to see how it goes, so they have some shade out there. I also thought I had 3 panels here. I only have 2. I also like covering 2 sides of the body of the tractor also, so that way it works as a good windbreak for the chickens. So I definitely have to add, get some more of these and finish covering. We are wrapping up the broiler chicken tractor build. I didn't want to waste your time showing you us screwing on some hinges. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I appreciate it. I will get back to you as soon as possible.